So the first thing that we're going to talk about in this series is setting your expectations. Really think about for this school year, what is it that you want the students to do in your classroom? Think about your pet peeves last year. What was driving you nuts whenever we went to spring break before COVID? What was it that really was getting on your nerves? Was it that the kids weren't coming to class on time? Was it that they didn't have a pencil? Was it that they wouldn't sit still or raise their hand or they were blurting out? Think about those specific things that were really bothering you, that if only they stopped doing this, you would be more productive. Well, what is it that you want them to stop? If you want them to stop coming to class late, what's the opposite of that? So we learn about opposites. The opposite of that is to arrive to class on time. That's your expectation. Is it that they never have their materials? They don't have their book. They don't have their pencil. They don't have their homework, whatever that is. Then what you want them to do is arrive on time with a pencil and their book and their homework. Okay. In those young elementary classes, is it that they're blurting out all the time? They're raising their hand and they're saying the answer at the same time. They won't sit in their seat, or they won't share their toys. What is it that they were doing? But then think about the opposite of that. So when you think about expectations, there's expectations and there's rules. Okay. Your expectations are what you want them to do, whereas your rules are also things you want them to do, but more are things that you don't want them to do. So like no hitting, no pulling hair, no biting, no cussing, no cell phones. Well, try to phrase those. Some things have to be put in the no category, but try to phrase those things in the positive. What is it that you want to see children doing? Because if you can phrase it in the positive, then you're able to catch them doing those things, and you're setting yourself up for success in reinforcement and teaching rather than constantly punishing. I call this the whack-a-mole approach because a lot of times what will happen is children will be running in the hallway, and so we'll say no running, and so then they start that speed walk where they're walking really fast, and you're like, that's not what I wanted you to do either. And so you really want to look at, rather than whack-a-mole, no hitting, no biting, no kicking, no punching, what is it that you want them to do? I want you to have safe hands. So set aside your expectations. What is it that you want them to do? Be specific in those expectations, because our expectations change across environments. So your expectations are different than their teacher's expectations were last year. They're minute changes, but think about a new job with a new principal or new teachers that you're working with. There's different cultures, there's different climates. And so there's this child, the children in your class, they have their home culture and their home environment, and they have the expectations that are in their home. And those may look, depending on their culture and the environment that they're brought up in, very different than your own expectations in your classroom, okay? And think about generational expectations. So if you think about expectations with grandparents, expectations at home, expectations at church, expectations in a restaurant, they change across environments. And so you have to teach them, just like when you start a new job, what are your expectations for your classroom? What is the culture going to be like in your classroom? Are you a very strict, organized, regimented type classroom, or are you a more laissez-faire, relaxed, peace, love, and happiness type classroom, okay? And so set those expectations and help them on that first day of school, but it's not just the first day. It's throughout the school year, but help them to learn the culture in your classroom. And the best way to get success in a child or a student learning the culture in your classroom is to be explicit in saying, this is my expectation, do this and do it this way. So once you decide on your expectations, set aside your expectations. These are the things that I expect in my classroom. These are what I want you to do, okay? And then teach one per week. So every week, just like you would teach math, reading, writing, any of those basic concepts, science, geography, social studies, history, we teach something, we have a lesson, we have a unit that we're focused on for the week. So take your expectations, set those aside in lessons and units. You don't have to spend a lot of time. This doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be convoluted or complicated or take any extra time. But spend the first few minutes every Monday. Here is our expectation this week. Here's what we're focused on for this week. I want to see you doing this, and this is how I want you to do it. Teach it to them. Model it. Show them what it looks like. Practice it with them. So set aside 10 minutes and practice turning in your homework or having your pencil or coming in and sitting down. It seems elementary, but practice it. Make sure that they can do it. And then give them feedback. And throughout the week, reinforce, catch them doing it. Use your reinforcement system. We're going to talk about that in a couple of videos and a couple of sessions, but use that reinforcement. How can you catch them doing those expectations and using those expectations? Because the more you reinforce them with those expectations, the more likely they are to comply with or follow those expectations, okay? For additional resources, Dr. Anita Archer has a lot of wonderful resources. She has books and also some YouTube videos on setting those expectations. She talks about the SLANT method in one of hers, and there's some videos that I will tag or link in this video below that you can click on to watch some of those expectations and how she teaches those in her classroom. Thank you and have a wonderful day.